I have an interesting history with Missile Command because I first tried the game in 2011 for a student research project at Vancouver Film School Game Design program. It was a small group project where we had to talk about examples of sending a message through mechanics, and the game that we chose while trying to find the earliest example of a game with a message was Missile Command. It being the earliest wasn't a requirement, it's just what interested us. And to be honest, that's still what I find interesting about Missile Command to this day. Yeah, there's the very solid arcade loop where you have 3 missile silos and have to protect 6 cities from a barrage of bombs while hastily balancing aspects of dexterity and strategy. Sometimes, even sacrifice comes into play when you realize there's no way you can save one city and it's better to focus on protecting the others. The mechanics and setups have just the right balance between being concrete and abstract enough that they gain high applicability. As in, it's not necessarily an allegory to any particular war, but it's very natural to apply your knowledge and feelings and current cultural aspects and political climate to the game. As a result, at the end of the first several gameplay sessions, there's this post-game contemplation about real-life events, and that's a powerful thing, especially considering that despite having war as a theme, Missile Command doesn't glorify it. In fact, it focuses more on the futility and pointlessness of the act. Although this feeling gets numbed down quite quick as you get used to the gameplay loop. And when it comes to that, honestly, Missile Command is not a game that I'm particularly interested in consistently replaying. At some stages the game becomes so hectic that I realize to progress I need to spend a lot of time training and adapting, and I'm just not that interested. So when it comes to rankings, Missile Command gameplay-wise is actually kinda like Breakout for me. Meaning that I enjoy it enough to play for a bit, but I don't really see it offering any longevity. However, I will place it above Breakout and Zork due to the strong, at the very least in the first several sessions, feelings from the thematic aspect of the game. I do want to quickly note that Missile Command has home console ports that I consider to be inferior. For example, since Atari 2600 has only one button, the version for that console has only one silo you shoot from, which changes the entire game to the worse. But I'm thinking I'm not going to separate ports of early arcade games into different entries, even if they don't play the same, because there are so many differences. When taking more games, you start considering stuff like several Atari versions, Commodore 64, sometimes Apple II, ZX Spectrum, and Intellivision. And yes, later down the line, and others where any amount of little differentiation can really change how the games play. But at the end of the day, even though all those arcade ports aren't technically ports, they do try to mimic the original as much as humanly and technically possible, so any encountered differences aren't necessarily intentional changes to the experience. I don't want to fall into the rabbit hole of trying to differentiate so many versions, so there's only one Missile Command entry, and there's going to be only one entry for a lot of the early arcade era games.